It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. Welcome to Morning Marketing Machine, and I'm excited today because we have a very special guest. So Paul Barron is a $1 million Amazon seller, amazing.com instructor, ASM 5 student, a sought-after expert consultant on chatbot marketing automation. There's a ton of stuff in terms of Paul here. So Shark Tank's Barbara Corcoran and been featured on the Rachel Ray Show, Forbes magazine. You get the idea. There's a ton of stuff that he knows his stuff. He's got the Chat Agency, which offers full-service chat marketing services, including his proprietary Nano Influencer framework. So thank you for coming on the show, Paul.
Yeah, for sure. It's good to be here, Doug.
So if I could ask you, I guess, before we really get into a lot of the mindset pieces here, for people that may not know, can you tell a little bit in terms of like how you got started in e-commerce on Amazon, kind of your story a little bit?
Yeah, so I've kind of always had an entrepreneurial bug my whole life. When I was a kid, I was always doing something to make money. I mean, I live in Colorado, so back then, growing up, you could get a ski ticket, a lift ticket for $20, $30, $40. Now they're like 120. It's absurd. But in the winters, I would, if I wanted to go skiing, I would shovel the, driveways. I would charge $8 a driveway, which I thought was a killing. But now if like any kid came to my door offering $8 to shovel, I'd be like, I'll hire you all season. So I'd shovel enough driveways and sidewalks to get enough money to go skiing. And I had a little, landscaping lawn mowing business that I would run in the summers. And so I've always been entrepreneurial, just always kind of trying to find my own way, I guess, and make money. About 10 years ago, I was, it is, man, it's crazy how time flies. About 10 years ago, I was hired at a firm here in town. I was employee number 12 at a web design and marketing firm. And my role there initially was to be a project manager, which I had no idea what a project manager was, what they did. I knew there was manager in the title, so I thought that meant that I was in charge of people. Turns out I'm a terrible project manager. I'm really bad with time management, which is intrinsic to project management. And I'm really good at sales. And while I was there, within my first 2 months, I had set up a partnership with a company. It's actually Big Commerce, the shopping cart company. They're kind of one of the chief competitors with Shopify. They were brand new at the time, and I had set up an affiliate partnership with them, where basically we were their number one referred affiliate. And I think that they may still be. I don't know what that partnership looks like now. But we went from getting, I think, 5 leads a week to about 20 a day within a matter of a couple weeks with that partnership. So that made me over into sales. And in the sales role, I was always just constantly learning about the product, search engine optimization. Chat marketing was not even on the radar back then, obviously. I mean, there was like on-site chat, like live help and that sort of thing. But I just kept learning about marketing and learning about how businesses can be found online. Most of our clients were like local businesses or, small mom and pop shops. A couple of them were in e-com. And so I kind of cut my teeth there just through my clients. And I had always wanted to go off on my own. And I was always trying to do little side projects and things. And it was funny because I would always, when I was on the phone doing sales calls, I would, often say, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, like talking to the people on the other line. And I had this coworker who would just constantly make fun of me. And he would always just give me such a hard time. And it's really, I feel like I am a likable guy, but then again, I feel like most people think they're likable. So I'll have to ask my wife. She'll tell you the truth. But it takes a lot for me to not like someone, and he is one of those people. And it was like, because he would just constantly like be pick, like, you're not an entrepreneur. And it was one of those things that, like, um, I still, like, think back on that 10 years later where I am now. And, and I'm like, ha, proving you wrong. Um, but 3 years after, about 2.5 years into that position, I was fired. And as a lot of entrepreneur stories go, that gave me the push that I needed. It sent me to a little period of depression for about 2 years, because prior to all this, my life's goal was actually wanted to be a pastor. I wanted to help people and do like missions work around the world. And I had this goal that I wanted to start businesses and teach people in third world countries how to start businesses, so that they wouldn't be taken advantage of. They would be able to feed themselves and be able to provide for themselves. And that is still a goal of mine, that I want to go into underprivileged areas and just help people learn how to provide for themselves. And it's amazing the ways that people make money and the things that you can do to make money. And that's still a goal of mine. And so prior to getting that job, I had done a lot of work in nonprofits and charity organizations and things. And so I got this job at this agency. I don't have a college degree. It was the most money I was ever making in my life. I mean, it was in the six-figure range. And prior to that, the most that I'd ever made was something like 20 or 30,000 a year. And so I got this job, benefits, and base pay plus really healthy commission. But I was just hating my life, and got fired, and really started just to question my purpose in life, and like who am I? Like, what am I doing? Why am I here? What's my purpose for existing? And I honestly think that those are good questions to have, and those are good questions that everyone should ask themselves, because I believe that there's more to living than just making money and waking up and doing it. Wake up, work, go to sleep. I mean, that could be your life, but you can leave an impact. You could have purpose. You can leave a mark on the world, and you can make the world a better place. And I wasn't doing that at this job, and it showed in my attitude. I was toxic. Obviously having coworkers that I just genuinely hated at the time. I don't hate him now. I'm releasing forgiveness in my heart, and that's a hard thing to do. But it's funny how that's 10 years ago, and I'm still having to forgive. It's amazing how that works, right? But so I was fired. Even though the day before I was fired, I came home and I told my wife, I was like, I don't care if I have to take a minimum wage job. I don't care what I have to do, but I am done. I'm done. Like, I can't. It was crushing. It was just soul crushing. Um, I had never. I kind of developed a sailor's mouth while I was working there, and I still kind of have it to this day. But it had changed me a lot, this environment, and it was a lot for the negative. Not that swearing is bad or good; it is what it is. But there were things that I wasn't liking the person that I was. So I got fired, but even though I didn't like it, and I wasn't liking the person that I was when I was fired, it was so tied into my identity that I was depressed, and I couldn't put a finger on it. I've gone through seasonal affective disorder, self-diagnosed, thanks to my wife, but she had noticed, like, while we were dating and even up through marriage, like every winter I kind of slump a little bit. And so I was fired in December. So it's like in the middle of the slump, the normal slump, plus this massive thing. And it took me about 2 years to really get out of that. And in that time, I bounced from job to job. I was also dealing with a big gaming addiction. I was heavy into video games.
Mhm.
And because I was not feeling successful in life, I could succeed online, right? And so I was like gaming until all hours of the morning, like 4 a.m. And I was just like, well, I don't have a job. It doesn't matter. I was just feeling worthless. And I was internalizing failure, instead of thinking I failed and I can learn from that. It doesn't matter all the platitudes. They sound like platitudes, these great sayings, like, um, failure. I believe now failure is a necessary ingredient in success. And because if you fail, that means that you're at least trying, and you can't succeed if you don't try. And it's incredibly rare that people are going to succeed their first time. You got it. Most people in the entrepreneur world or business world, whatever, you're gonna come approach a cliff. You're not going to see it. You're going to fall off, and that's like I knew that, but I was internalizing like I am a failure.
Mm.
And there's a big difference between thinking that you failed, identifying what failed and fixing it, and internalizing that you are the reason and that you are the failure and that there's nothing that can be helpful, like nothing can help you. And uh, there's a whole story of how I came out of that involving, counseling and, prayer and meditation and all that stuff, but I'm not going to go down that road. But suffice to say, that moment really pushed me into, it forced me into looking at entrepreneurial ventures, because again, I don't have a college degree. And, you know, when you're suffering with this anxiety and self-worth issues, you don't want to apply for jobs that have a degree required, because you already feel less than. And so you see this and it's just like, well, I can't apply. There's nothing. I can't apply for anything. Like I can't get a job. And um, we were, I think it was third year of marriage, coming into our fourth year. My wife told me that she was pregnant with our son. And I was supposed to be working at a friend's office. This is the first time I've ever shared this story, by the way. So
Mm.
I get a little bit teared up. Um, I was supposed to be working for a friend helping his e-commerce company, because that was my experience and I was good at it. And his name is Tom. He passed away, but he's an amazing man, really incredible father, established an amazing business. And he was in on the e-com phase with eBay, like making like 800 grand a month back in like 2010, 2012, like those times. It was amazing. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to help you drive traffic to your website, because I knew how to do that, or at least I had experience. I'm a lot better at it now. But the gaming addiction, like he wasn't paying me. And so when I was in between tasks, I would play games, and it was like a shameful secret. Right. And so I was supposed to come home end of the day, and I was like, well, I'm just going to play one game. And then before I knew it, it was like 2 a.m. and my wife is texting me, where are you? What are you doing? I need to tell you something. And so she told me over text, because I was basically lying to her, like hiding the fact that I was like, it's an addiction really.
Mhm.
And I remember coming home and just thinking like the most worthless human being. And like, what kind of man would make his wife tell him that she's pregnant over text because he's gaming? And she gave me an ultimatum, essentially, that we were going to go through counseling, or else there was no, we don't bring up this divorce, like that's not an option. But that was the strongest point, where it was like, I'm not raising we're not raising a child with you in the state that you're in. You need help.
Mhm.
um so that started the catharsis and the healing. I said I wasn't going to get into it, but I did. um so fast forward, I'm starting to get help and kind of healing. And because of the position that I had at this other company, I was known in the area. I've done a really good job of networking. I've always been good at networking. If I, people ask, if like, what's your secret skill? It'd be, I'm just really good at networking. I really like to meet people, and I like to figure out what it is that people do. Again, because I believe that every person has intrinsic value, and that everybody brings something to the table. There's something unique about everyone that they can do that nobody else can in the world. And so I'm good at connecting dots, and like, oh, you should meet this person. Like Tim, you need to meet, Tomer, and
Mhm.
Doug, that sort of stuff. Right. So I was good at networking, and because of that, I was known in the area as the guy to talk to about web development and marketing. And because it was no longer at this firm, people still kept contacting me. And so I was like, okay, fine, I guess I'll start a web development company. And in 2014, the summer of 2014 is when I decided to do that. This was my now third foray, or second foray into, no, it would be third, I guess. First, I started a web development agency, quote unquote, with my buddy before getting hired at this firm. That failed miserably. Got hired at this firm, learned a lot, got fired, went through depression, came out of it, started a web development and design firm again. And I didn't want to do it because I knew all the work that was entailed. And I knew that in order to make it succeed, you need a team. And I just didn't have the money for that. So we were bootstrapping everything, staying up all night, building websites and doing SEO and that sort of stuff. And just really getting burnt out. And so the baby is coming. I'm like, okay, well, I have to pick up another job. So I picked up a job waiting tables. Um, about a year into this, 6 months after my son was born, his name is Bo. We heard about selling on Amazon and the whole private label stuff. How you can, find a product that people are already buying, make tweaks and tune it, and sell your own version. And that was the first time I had ever heard of any concept like that. And I was like, this is brilliant, because in my past, Amazon was just an arbitrage portal that people would find things and sell them lower than the competition. And it just seemed like a losing proposition to me that whoever sold it for the least won. And it's just it's just a lot of work, and like the margins aren't there. And I mean, God bless the arbitrage people, but that's not something that I want to get into.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so um, I signed up for ASM, which is, for those of you listening to this podcast, it's one of the original courses on selling. It's the amazing selling machine on selling on Amazon, and launched our first product in July of 2015, because I had this goal. One of my buddies took ASM4. I took ASM5. He was making 50 grand in his first month. And I was like, this is insane. Like, and I knew him. He lives, and I still talk to him. We're
Mm-hmm.
still friends. In fact, he sent me a message last night that I need to reply to. He's a good friend of mine, a former business partner now, even. And I took the leap because actually my sister believed in me. I watched the videos that he was sharing, and I was like, this is a crock of BS. Like, it seemed like an MLM. Like, it just seemed skeezy. Like, because, they're selling, like, you can do this, and like but because my sister like tagged me, she's like, I think you'd be good at this. So I talked it over with my wife, and surprisingly, I know this is like, I don't know if you believe in God or not, but I really believe this is a God thing. Like, she was like, yes, let's do it, which blew my mind. I was going to put it on a credit card without telling her. So that would have been a huge mistake,
Right.
because she's a key ingredient for why we're successful. Like, I've got all the marketing stuff. I've got these harebrained ideas that half the time they fail miserably, but when they succeed, they really succeed well. But it takes cash to do that. She is this steady, she's like just a steady keel on a ship. Like, she keeps everything upright.
Mm-hmm.
And had I done that, had I put it on a credit card and not told her, would have been a huge fight. We would have been against each other, and we would have been fighting, and I would have been doing it on my own. But because she said, well, if you think it's real, and because she had a chance to talk to Nate and like actually sit down with him, I was amazed. Like, we put this on a Discover card, and we paid for our first inventory order, everything on Discover. And again, I'm starting a web development agency in the day, and to pay the bills, I'm working waiting tables nights. We have a brand new son who's at this point 8 months old, and um, that life is full, life is busy, and my incentive was, this has to work, because if this doesn't work, we're losing the house.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no option. There was no, like, I think I'm going to try this thing out and see if it works. There was none of that. It was, this is going to work. And like, looking back at this, like, there was a lot of luck involved, but that saying that luck is just the intersection of preparedness and opportunity, or preparation and opportunity. Had we not been setting ourselves up, had I not have that experience with doing digital marketing before, had I not gone through this phase where I was healing from depression and all that stuff, believing in myself, all that stuff, had that not been in play, like, we wouldn't have been at the point to succeed and seize the luck when it came to our door. So fast forward now, 5 years later, all the things that you read, I mean, we've had some insane, just crazy experiences. I mean, last year, this isn't a part of it, but last year, I think I can say this because we're not under an NDA. Michael Phelps' agent found us and emailed us because we're in baby swimwear, and we're in sustainable and like eco-friendly and stuff. And like that, the fact that, like, that didn't go anywhere because she wanted a bunch of money. And again, I can tie that into influencer marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I will, but I didn't want to just pay a ton of money up front. I wanted a long-term partnership where we could do something that would be mutually beneficial. And because the agent was involved, she seemed like a newer agent. She agents only get paid when their athletes get paid, and so she just didn't care. Like, she stopped anyway. the Racial Ratio, my wife being interviewed in Forbes magazine alongside Barbara Corcoran, like one of my heroes, being able to meet with Barbara Corcoran, and just have conversations, and doing partnerships with celebrity athletes and Olympians. And we've been nominated for like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Awards. We were flown out to D.C. for that. Out of all the businesses in America, like we were one of 5 up for an award, which is amazing. And I'm not saying all that to brag. I'm just saying all that to see, like, 10 years ago, when I was in the depth of my depression, or 8 years ago, really, I would never look forward and say, like, this is where I'd be. And for me, success is not a destination. I'm not saying that, look at me, I'm successful because of these things. I'm just saying that it is a journey. It's a mindset that you have to choose, that you're going to succeed, that you're going to put up with the crap, and you're going to deal with all that garbage. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that we would be on the Rachel Ray show, and I wouldn't. Yeah, it's amazing, the journey that we've been on. So I guess it's my backstory, getting started in ecom, up to today. Yeah, so there's a lot of other stuff I could talk about, but we can talk more about, I'm sure, chat marketing and influencer stuff.
Oh, yeah, and that's great story in terms of everything that you were just talking about, and there's a lot to unpack there.
Right.
I guess you were talking about like going through the depression, and obviously you alluded more in terms of like counseling and other aspects of that. So, and then you get to the point where you've got so much going on that you're basically trying to pay the bills and somehow make the Amazon thing work. So what goes into your mindset at that point? Like when you're at the point, like, how does that transition happen where you're going, all right, I'm in severe depression, I'm gaming all the time, and I feel like a failure, like, which I haven't done the gaming, but I felt like a failure like a lot of my life as well. And like what goes in, like what is your purpose behind, like what ultimately helps you get out of that and level up to the point that you're like, all right, I've got 15 million things going on, and I'm going to do Amazon, and it's going to work, and I'm going to do whatever I can. Like, how does that process work for your mindset to kind of transform it? Because
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
not something that just happens overnight. It takes a long time to get there.
it's not. And I mean, I'm a person of faith, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess classically you would say that I'm a Christian. That term I don't like to use because it comes with so much baggage for so many people, because you have atrocious things that were done in the name of Christ. It like that in and of itself just breaks my heart, that people would. I'm in a really emotional state right now for some reason. I think I've been thinking about this depression thing. I haven't gone there for a while, but for me, it's my identity doesn't come from me. The things that I do aren't me. I am not the things I do. And the things that who I am, like the things that I do stem from who I am, but they aren't me. If that's like the defining line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone screws up. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone does things that they regret every single day. There's always something that we could do that could be better. I mean, just this morning, I'm not a morning person. I really, I snapped at my daughter. She's like a little ray of sunshine. In the morning, she is just bright and cheery, and she's up before the sun, and she's like, "It's morning, time to get up." And I'm like grumpy, super grumpy, angry. I shouted at her, and like, I regret that. I wish I could do better. But all to say, I am not my actions. My actions don't define me. Now, your actions do carry real significant impacts. I'm not going to say that if you kill somebody, you can just, that's not who you are. No, you have repercussions. Your actions carry repercussions, and you have to deal with those repercussions. But the core identity of who I am is defined by what God says about me. And what God says about me, what he believes about me, is bigger than I could ever become on my own. And so in order to become that person, I need external help. And sometimes it comes in the form of your wife telling you, I'm not going to raise this kid with you in this position that you're at. And it requires external help, whether that's from people or a force larger than yourself, the universe, God, whatever you want to, however you call it. that's what I believe in. For me, like that was the big thing. Like I remember that first counseling session. It was the most uncomfortable, probably the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my entire life. And I wanted to hide, because that's what I was doing with gaming. I was hiding. I was avoiding emotions. I was numbing myself. And I was sitting on this couch, and I just remember thinking, I just want to sink into this couch and have the cushions cover me. I don't want to be here. And it was hard. It was really hard. But thank God for my wife. And I mean, again, the core tenets of my belief are founded on grace, that I need help, and I can't do it on my own. And so I guess because of that, reaching out for help, I can't say that I was strong enough. I needed someone stronger for me, and my wife was that person at that time. So external help.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and actually, I was on Carlos's podcast, and he was talking. We talked about the idea of a support system, and I I am I am of the same mindset that you need somebody else. You can't do this alone. Like
Right.
I can't tell you the amount of times my wife has been there for me. And it doesn't have to be exactly your wife, but you need to have a support system in place, because what we do is you're dealing with a lot of stuff every day that you've never done before,
Yeah.
and there's a
Yeah.
lot of times that you could fall into depression or whatever it is, but you need that other person is my thought anyway, in
Yeah.
terms to get through it. So kind of taking this a little bit to the Amazon side, because obviously we're both on Amazon. We both have done a lot with, say, chatbots on Amazon. Like, what would you say, like, in terms of if someone's getting started on Amazon, someone's doing anything in terms of that, like, how would you recommend in terms of like the mindset piece, how, like, going into like their day-to-day life on Amazon? Is there anything you would recommend that would be helpful for them?
Yeah. Approach it soberly, in that knowing that it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not something that you can just take your laptop and work from a beach and make a bunch of money. First of all, I've done that. It's terrible. Why would you take your laptop to the beach? It's stupid. You're only doing it for a photo. Like, that's literally why I did it. It was so dumb. Like, there's sand everywhere. The glare is terrible. Just leave it in the hotel room. If you're at the beach, enjoy the freaking beach.
Mhm.
Um, so get that out of your mind. Like, you're not going to get rich quick overnight. It's not going to happen. It is a hard slog, and you need to choose to be successful. Like, you have to make the choice that you will be successful. And in those pieces of mindset, like, you have to realize that you need help, that you need mentorship, that you need people that have been there and done that, that you are not the smartest, that they're going to help you. So, like, with that, for anybody getting started on Amazon today, you can still do it. I mean, look at all the restaurants that are perpetually started.
Mhm.
No one would ever go to somebody and be like, oh, restaurants are saturated, don't start a restaurant. But all these people there, I mean, there's always new restaurants. There's always new ways that people can make money. So in the Amazon space, it's the same way. It's all about uniqueness. It's all about USP. 5-6 years ago, you could literally sell spaghetti on the wall, like throw it on the wall and like package it and sell it, and people would buy it. It was a lot easier. I'm not saying that it wasn't. It's harder now. There's a lot more rules, and those rules are good because they protect honest sellers.
Mhm.
So when you're getting involved in the Amazon space, if this is something that you want to do, you need to understand that you need people that are going to help you. Like you said, Doug, like, you've got to have someone in your corner that believes in you. You need to have a mentor figure that's going to help you, or a mentor group. Find a group of people that you can journey together and continually up level. I've been a part of multiple masterminds, paid and unpaid. And the unpaid ones are honestly, like, we've lifelong friendships out of those, and we grow together. And um, I've some of those groups have closed and we've moved on, but we're still friends. We just don't meet as a group.
Mhm.
Um, so be teachable, be doggedly determined to not quit, not fail. And when you fail, just get up, learn from your mistake. Don't internalize it. It's not your, like, yeah, maybe it was your fault. That's fine. Identify what portions were your fault, but don't internalize the fact that a failure means you're a failure, and just move on. Um, there's a lot of other advice. Like I said, USP. Um, I think most people get into this space thinking, so USP is unique selling proposition. Most people get into this space thinking that, well, they're just going to, buy another widget, white label a widget, and then they're going to make a bunch of money. Well, that the space is saturated right now. You need something that stands out. You need to be telling your brand story. Why should people care? Why in the world would anyone care to buy your product? I believe that people are inherently selfish, that we do things for our own reasons. We want to satisfy our wants, our desires, maybe the desires of our friends and our family, if we're being a little bit more altruistic. But people aren't going to go to Amazon and buy from you just because you exist. It's not like the Field of Dreams. Like that's not realistic. You've got to have a reason for why people are going to buy from you. Why is your product better? Is it actually better, or is it just a fake story? Because if it's just a sham and a story, people are going to see through that. Like you've got to combine real value, real product quality, meeting people's needs better with a really good story. And that's where the branding, that's the intersection of branding. Effective branding is doing those things and telling that story so that people can find out about you.
Yeah, and that's something that I completely agree with. I like and I'm guessing just to guess here, like obviously you're very in the world of chatbots, you're very in the world of influencers. Is that kind of where some of that came from? Like the idea of, all right, I don't want to be like everybody else. I'm not going to sell that widget like another fidget spinner or something like that. I'm gonna work on my marketing. I'm gonna work on the how to build my list, and that's where like chatbots and marketing comes into play, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so it came from branding. It came from the niche that we're in is very narrow. It's very summer seasonal. So we sell reusable swim diapers for kids between the ages of birth up to where our age is expanding because we found that there's our customers need some of them need larger sizes. We have a large community of people with different cognitive and physical abilities that require swim diapers still at older ages. But when we started, it was just a one size fits all adjustable thing, and we were going to be expanding into other products. Like I wanted to do bandana bibs, and I wanted to do these other things. I'm glad I didn't do bandana bibs because there's not enough uniqueness there, and it's super saturated now. And they used to be like $15 for two, and now they're like 16 for 8 or something. It's absurd. So it was kind of forced. We going to our first full year in business. So starting year 2, we invested a lot, $10,000 actually into our branding,
Mhm.
into creating a visual appeal, but also into our story and exactly our niche. What are we going to do? So we decided to really hone in and get really narrow in baby swim and baby outdoor. So that defined our future product releases, but it also was a limiting factor in things that we could offer and how we had to market ourselves. Because when you're thinking in terms of like um, competing against massive brands, the best thing that you can do is be the best in one really, really niched area. So we compete against Huggies and Pampers and that sort of stuff, and we beat them. When we launched in Australia, we were the best-selling swim diaper on the market in Australia. Um, when right now after Prime Day, we didn't do the discount thing, so we lost our bestseller badge. But we've owned the bestseller badge in our category for like 2.5-3 years now,
Mhm.
all because of this strategy. And it comes down to real marketing, not Amazon marketing. And that's another bit of mindset is that a lot of people in this space, they say they have Amazon businesses. Well, no, they don't. You have a business and it's highly leveraged on Amazon. Amazon has an Amazon business. You have a you business. So you need to think about how are you building your audience? What is it about you, your brand, that's attractive to people? Because if you are just entirely dependent upon Amazon's traffic, um, if and when that traffic goes away, what are you left with? Nothing.
Yeah.
So um, it's funny because I've been called an expert in this space, and I feel like I am more expert than some people. But in many ways, I'm still really learning a ton on like off Amazon traffic. Like the things that I'm good at are chatbots and working with nano influencers.
Mhm.
And um, yeah, so that is all out of necessity, really. It's like building a real brand, doing real marketing off Amazon, and not just focusing on obsessively looking at our BSR or keyword ranking. Like it changes all the time. Like,
Mhm.
come on.
Yeah, and that's one thing I know I get this question all the time too. Like everyone always looks at it from the perspective of Amazon, 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 but at the end of the day, it's not your customer. So like they could flip a switch and you're out of luck. Like
Right.
I know that like I've had issues myself where everybody who's sold on Amazon for more than 5 minutes has their stories, right? Um,
Right.
and it's just about, all right, are you going to? It's an amazing platform. I'm not saying get off there, but what happens if they go away? Like at that
Mm-hmm.
point, are you going to understand your marketing, like this stuff you're talking about? Are you going to understand how to create real value in your brand? I mean, those are the things that people don't want to think about. They think, oh, it's Amazon, so I can make 50 grand in a month. I can make 100 grand in a month, or whatever it is, and I'll be great. You're not really. I think a lot of times people don't think about those things until they're forced to, in
Yeah.
general. Um,
Yeah.
but so kind of as we're talking about that, so like so would you say like that was the most important thing that you've been focusing on then at this point is like the kind of off Amazon, or what is the most important thing that you've been focusing on at this point?
I think it's building a real brand that has a real following, and that's the core of what we do. Because everything that I teach in Chat Marketing University, for example, my course that I started on chatbots, um, I believe that you should be able to launch products profitably, or at least break even, and
Mhm.
we do that successfully. And the reason why we do that is because we have a real following. We have a real following because we built a real brand. And there's elements that go into branding, your story, what people say about you, what you say about yourself, what you say about your customers, um, your products, and how your products solve problems and create solutions for your customers. All that is a part of branding. And doing that effectively is a challenge because inherently with branding, there is not a it's hard to track ROI. Like it's not like marketing, where marketing is directly, if you're not tracking ROI on marketing, you're doing it wrong. Um, you need to track ROI in marketing, but branding is different, and that's where it has to deal with like the nano influencer side of things, right? So prior to hitting record, we were talking about working with influencers and doing like affiliate type commissions and um, with them. And that's, I think one thing that I see often when people work with influencers is that it is very transactional. And psychologically, there are two modes in people's brains when it comes to business. There's friend zone and money zone. And when you get into money zone, everything has a price, everything has a value. But if you get into friend zone, people are willing to do stuff just because you're a friend. So um, think of it. There's a story about in World War II. I think it was Red Cross. I can't remember. It's one of the U.S. aid organizations that was in Europe. Provided free coffee and donuts to the U.S. officers in their officer tent in England. Um, it was free, um, and it was just because that was just like the thing for U.S. officers. But British and other Allied officers started They complained because they were getting charged, like because it was an aid from an American organization to U.S. Soldiers. So instead of making it free for everyone, they started charging the officers. So that switch there, they went from friend to transaction. It'd be like your mother at Thanksgiving saying, "Hey everyone, so glad you're here. Now that'll be $50 at the end of the meal." You're like, "What? What? That's like, what are you talking about?" Like, oh, that's just like it's insulting, right? Like, I will give my mom. I put money in my mom's purse, and just because she won't let me give her money, like I have aunts that try to pay for things all the time, like they're living on a fixed income and like they won't take anyway. So transactional versus business, when you cross that line, right? So friends, transactions, sorry, friend zone, family, business, transaction. Um, what we do and what we seek to do is create relationships with people that transcend transaction.
Hmm.
And when you do that, you're able to um, work towards a common objective, and you build a team of people that the objective is getting the word out about your brand. It's no longer my brand, it's our brand. And it's motivating people to, I don't know, work for the common good. And I sometimes I hesitate sharing this type of stuff because you could obviously use this to manipulate people, and you could obviously use this to take advantage of people, and that is not my intent. um, with our program that we put together, our nano influencer program in our brand, it's been 3 years in the making, 3.5. And we really focus heavily on the relationship aspect and rewarding. I mean, we do fun prizes and contests and things. There's money involved. But at the heart of it, it's a group of women that have become friends, and they love promoting the brand. And we go out of our way to find ways that they can make more money, that we can hire them to do other things. And yeah, was a really roundabout answer to your question, but I don't even know if it was an answer, if it was me just blabbering. But
All right.
I guess that's what I think of with influencer marketing. You could do it transactionally, or you can work a long-term relationship. And my goal is long-term relationships.
Okay. And kind of in terms of some of what you're talking about with your answer too, I think one of the things I wanted to gotta get back to a little bit, you were talking about really early on, you were talking about the idea of like you were making a lot of money, but you were unhappy. And I think the way I tend to look at people in terms of it is, all right, if I'm going to put something out there, like there are people that can manipulate things to their advantage, but ultimately at the end of the day, they live with it. And what kind of person are you wanting to be? Like same thing,
Right.
like you were saying when you're making a ton of money, you weren't happy. And like I'm reminded like Tom Bailey, he talks about like he was making a ton of money on paper, but he was not happy. Like it comes down to your purpose at that point, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so so that kind of brings up a question of like, all right, so you've alluded to a little bit earlier before, but like with everything that you've been going through here, how do you find like what your purpose is and like keeps going, like whether you're dealing with influencers or any of the other things, like what, like because this is something that I think a lot of people have a problem, like when you're dealing with issues all the time, as we are as business owners, like what gets you through it, what is that purpose, that why in essence,
Mm.
right, that gets you going. You alluded to a little bit of a part of that before, but like you can kind of go into a little bit more like how you get there, like how do you find like what is your purpose for dealing with all of the headaches that you're going to have to deal with when you're in business at all.
Yeah. Um, so are you talking about brand purpose or my personal purpose, my life purpose?
I think the way I've always looked at it is more as like the tactics kind of take care of themselves.
Okay.
You had that larger overall picture of it because otherwise you're not going to be able to figure it out, whatever the task.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, I guess, more of it.
So
If you want to go into a little bit of the brand as well, you can do that as well.
yeah, I'll answer both. So for me, again, because my faith is so intrinsic to who I am as a person,
Mhm.
I fall back on that. And I think that everybody has to have a bedrock of belief in their life, and it has to be well examined. I mean, who is it that the unexamined life is not worth living? Can't remember who said that, but I fully believe that we oftentimes, we're like, people are like water. We tend to sort of just coast downhill. And so we'll pick up beliefs that we um, may acknowledge as true without actually analyzing whether or not they hold up they hold up to actually being true and valid beliefs. And so I'm constantly evaluating my beliefs in general, and the core bedrock of my identity, it has to come down to something, right? So for my why, again, coming back to one of the things that I initially, when I was in my early 20s, wanting to establish businesses and help people um, feed themselves, long term. That's a huge portion of my why. My why has, and it comes, so it's, I guess I started answering, it's your why. I mean, does this book start with why? I own it. I haven't read it. It's been on my list to read for a long time. I kind of feel like I get the gist because it's in the title, right? You got to start with why. Um, what is it? What is it that's going to push you through those hard times? And it's always that why. Why did you get started? And I really believe that um, the deeper your why, the more impactful your why into the core of your identity, the more strong you will be when moments of adversity come. So money is a very shallow why. It's a very, very shallow thing because money is it's just money. I've had tons of money and I've had no money. There were points in my life 14 years ago that I was almost homeless, like literally. And money's just it's just money. It's not that big of a deal. And what the thing about money is that it's an amplifier and it helps you do things. So if your why is bigger than you and bigger than your own selfish needs and desires, then it changes how you do things. It changes why you do things. And so like for me, I have, I'll stand up here. I have several sponsor kids that we sponsor. We have Pendo and Baki. Baki lives in Burkina Faso. Pendo lives in Tanzania. We also have Yushindi that lives in Tanzania, and Sharifa who lives in Burkina Faso. And they're a part of my why. My family is a part of my why. I want my kids to grow up knowing that they can do things and impact lives around them and make the world a better place. And so for me, being an example of living with integrity and helping people is really important so that my kids see that behavior modeled. Again, I'm imperfect. I screw up all the time, like early this morning, for example. So you need to have a strong why, and it needs to be bigger than you. It needs to be bigger than creature comforts and just stuff, because that stuff is not satisfying. It's long term. It doesn't. It's like a drug that if you just got to keep having to take it. But if you want true satisfaction in life, it's that purpose of fulfilling something bigger than yourself. So that's my personal why, and bringing that into alignment with your spouse or your partner is really important, because you want to be working together for the same why, because you don't want to be a house divided and she's doing her thing. I mean, we each have our own dreams and goals, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it, the core of who we are and our goals is as a couple align. And so I have her in my corner and she has me in her corner. Do we fight? Yes. We got a big fight earlier this morning, like I said, because I was an asshole. And I can own that. But that's the personal why. Now, coming back to business, when you look at branding and decision making with brands and why you're in it as a brand and what you're going to do as a brand, you still need to craft those whys for the brand. And oftentimes they mirror your personal whys, and sometimes they're different. So, for our brand, we're about wholesome family fun. We're about making memories with your kids while they're young and leaving a positive impact on the world, which is a very strong mirror of my personal why. A couple new brands that we're starting up are in just different spaces. So we establish like non-negotiables. These are things we will not do. These are things that we're going to do. And that helps you establish future product development, marketing activities, et cetera, et cetera. So in order to be resilient, you need a strong why, both personally and in your business.
That's a great answer. And when you were referencing, obviously, start with why, that kind of made me want to ask as well. Like, what's your favorite book that you've been reading, or current book that you've been reading?
They're novels. It's so business books. I'll give you a business book because Dan Ariely, it's not necessarily a business book, but he's a behavioral economist. So he mixes economy and psychology. And so he does all these cool, he's a professor. I don't know, I can't remember which university, but it's some Ivy League school. And his book, he has a bundle that you can get on Amazon. It's called the Irrational Bundle, I think. Yeah, it's the Irrational Bundle.
Mhm.
And there's the first book in that bundle is called Predictably Irrational. And he talks about how, buying decisions, why people do what they do, different triggers that marketers pull to make you do what you do. And so on the marketing side, again, you can use this to manipulate people, or you can use this to understand people to help push them in the direction that you want them to go. So that's an amazing book. I just finished, I read about 48 books this year, and most of them are novels. In fact, Tim Jordan, I don't know if you know him, Tim
Okay.
and Melissa Simonson and I are all part of a nerdy group chat where we just talk about novels most of the time. And every now and again, business comes up. But I'm a huge Brandon Sanderson fan, and I just finished his Arcanum Unbounded, which is it's a super nerdy novel. It's like, yeah. If you ever see me at a conference, or if that ever happens again, and you want to chat, I will talk about Brandon Sanderson and the Cosmere ad nauseum. I love Brandon Sanderson.
Awesome. I will admit I'm not familiar, but now I'm gonna have to go check it out, and everyone listening needs to go check it out.
Start. Okay, if you're gonna start with Brandon Sanderson, start with Warbreaker.
Warbreaker?
That's a
Okay.
yeah, It's a really so there. All of his books are really beefy, but it's he's built this. Sorry, I'm going off on this diatribe. That's what I do. He all of his books, not all of them, most of them, he's written inside this cosmere. So there's like this overarching story, but then there's micro stories that are on different planets. So they're all fantasy. So like there's whole trilogies and series on like a certain planet, and then you start seeing how they're all connected. And so Warbreaker is a part of the Cosmere. It's a standalone novel, so it's you don't have to like go into like a whole trilogy or even a 6-book series or something. So it's a really good book.
Okay. All right. So I'm sure once everyone here reads that book, they're going to be reaching out to you asking for like your next book.
You can join our nerd group book club.
That actually kind of brings up another question too. Is like, obviously you have a ton going on between obviously Amazon, chatbots, influencers, everything else that you got going on. This kind of brings up the question of like a work-life balance, and this is a question that you hear all the time. Like people wonder about like, is there such thing as a work-life balance? How does that work? Like, is it like this imaginary thing that's not there? So I would ask you, like for you, like what is a work-life balance?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because there's another book that's, I think it was the one thing.
Oh yeah,
Can't
from
remember
Gary
the name of
Keller, right?
it. Is
Yeah.
Yeah, and he talks about that, right? That work-life balance is a myth. I'm
Mhm.
like, I think that he did that just because it was just sensational. But if you read it, it's like, no, you're agreeing that there is work-life balance. And the thing is that like, um, you you're not a dichotomous person. Like when you're at work, you're still the same person that you are at home. And for me, work-life balance it's hard, especially now exclusively working from home. I know that a lot of people, they'll still have an office environment, but um, it's really hard now because I have so much going on. But in general, what I really try to do is stop. Like I'm done working at 5.
Mhm.
Work conversations are done. It's family time. And for me, Sunday is a day that we just take for rest. And I borrow a lot from my friends that are Hasidic Jews. In that, if you look at the Shabbat, like it, it is a lovely thing that they turn off phones, don't answer emails. It's just family, and it's beautiful because it's like a built-in vacation every week. And that's what I am working towards. I'm not there, but I am actually taking an extended weekend this week. I'm taking off Friday and coming back on Monday to go hunting. So I apologize to my vegan friends if you think that I'm an evil person, but I'm sure that we could have good conversations. Um, Mostly, I'll be walking around the woods with a gun, and I'm probably not going to see anything because that's what happens. So work-life balance, yeah, I think you need to have a definite like no-go zone. Again, non-negotiables coming back to branding. Um, for my wife and I, when it's Sunday, we really try not to bring up work at all. Um, and that's hard because you were partners in one of the businesses. And now that I have 3, the chat agency is just getting started and off the ground. It's a very busy time of life. But I know that I'm okay with working a little bit longer than I want to for a short period of time, um, so that I have a goal, an exit strategy, whether it's exiting the business or just exiting that working busy phase,
Mhm.
so that I can have more family time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would definitely echo some of those sentiments too. I mean, I know, like it gets back to the question of your why, right? I mean, like I know, like for me personally, I want the freedom to be able to spend time with family, to go out, like obviously whenever we do travel, to be able to travel or unwind and spend family time together. And you got to remember what that is. Like for you, obviously you've got a lot in terms of your family too. So you've been able to kind of create that point of like, all right, I'm done. Um,
Right.
uh, like 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 I always see every like this is something across like groups and everywhere. They always say it's always about grinding. You have to grind harder, but
Ugh.
ultimately that's going to grind you to dust, and then you're going to kind of forget what your why is. At least that's my thought about it. But
Yeah, I mean, I went through a phase like that. I feel like it's normal, especially when you first start working for yourself. It's really hard to establish boundaries because you think that freedom means that you can do whatever you want. Well, no. I mean, freedom left to itself devolves to chaos. And so in order for freedom to exist, you need structure and you need boundaries. And so that's in my head. I am not a good person with boundaries. I've never been one. I've always been the headstrong. I'm going to do it myself. Don't tell me what to do. If I want to stay up until 2 a.m. working, I will. And I still do that every now and again. But again, like you said, it comes back to why. Is what you're doing serving the why? Is it serving that greater purpose? And if it's not, it's like look at gardening or something. If your tomato plants aren't bearing fruit, you probably need to prune them, or there's something wrong with the soil. You need to change something. Like you don't start a garden just for cool plants. You start it for fruit or vegetables, unless it's a flower garden. But still, there's a reason. And so if you don't have a reason, if you don't have a strong reason, you're going to go off course. You won't establish boundaries. You'll break the boundaries. And I do that all the time. It's not something that I could say that I'm an expert at. It's just that I'm experienced in recognizing patterns. And yeah, my wife is very, very much more of a boundary person than I am. She's really good at it. I suck.
and if I would say the same thing. So my wife is much better than I am. I have no idea why she's with me, but I'm very happy about it. So so I'll say as we're kind of heading down the home stretch here. One question I did want to ask you, and I kind of I was on a guest on I think it was Mason's podcast, and he brought this up, and I've pretty much taken it and asked it to everyone ever since. Is what's your definition of success?
Yeah. Um, I think it's still success is a journey.
Mhm.
I mean, I think success is a mindset. I've met people that I can tell. I mean, obviously, success starts in the mind, and it is expressed with accomplishments, I guess. And so you see people that may not express accomplishments yet, but you can tell, like you're success, you got it. Um, and so when I meet people like that, it's like I want to say it's a kindred spirit, but that may sound a little full of myself, but yeah, I don't know. It's all those things that sound like platitudes. It's a journey, not a destination. Um, you can be successful in some areas and unsuccessful in others. I think it's self-defined. You have to define what success is. Again, coming back to why. So, am I succeeding in achieving or moving closer to my why? Um, that for me is success. I don't know that I'll ever achieve everything that I fully set out to because I'm really hard on myself, but forward progress. I think success is forward progress toward your goal.
Awesome. So I wanted to thank you, Paul, so much for coming on today and sharing some of your story, your expert insight. It was so great talking to you. So I wanted to ask you, how can our listeners find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah. So you can check out probably the chat agency, thechatagency.com. When we were coming up with names for the business, we were like all super creative, like you can go with catalysts, like because we're going to catalyze, conversations with chatting, but then that's hard to spell. And then just I was doing a domain search and I was like, hey guys, thechatagency.com is available and there's no trademarks. So yeah, thechatagency.com, or Chat Marketing University is the course that I started a couple years ago on teaching people how to leverage chat. So if you want to learn it yourself, you can go to Chat Marketing University. If you're like me and you'd rather hire someone you can go to thechatagency.com and find us there.
Awesome. And we'll definitely have links for that as well. So thank you again, Paul. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'll talk to you next time on Morning Marketing Machine. All right.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Doug.